All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to try and unravel one of the oldest, most mind-bending puzzles in all of philosophy, the whole idea of omnipotence. What it actually means to be all-powerful. It seems so simple on the surface, right? But as you're about to see, it's anything but.
And this is the question that just short-circuits the whole conversation. It's the classic stone paradox. Think about it. If the answer is yes, he can create the stone, then he can't lift it, which means he's not all-powerful. But if the answer is no, he can't create the stone, well, then there's something he can't do, which also means he's not all-powerful. It's a perfect logical trap, a catch-22 with no way out.
So let's back up. Where do we even start? With the basics. The word itself, omnipotence, is pretty straightforward. It comes from Latin, omni, meaning all, and potens, meaning powerful. And the definition that we all kind of start with in our heads is exactly that, the power to do absolutely anything you can possibly imagine. Zero limits, no exceptions, the whole shebang. But, and this is a big but, that simple idea of doing absolutely anything starts to fall apart really, really fast once you start poking at it. It just creates this whole web of contradictions that challenge the very idea. Here's another classic for you. Can an all-powerful being make a square circle? Now, this isn't about physical strength, it's about pure logic. A square, by its very definition, has 4 corners. A circle, by its definition, has none. So a square circle isn't really a thing, is it? It's just a meaningless jumble of words. So the question becomes, can true power make complete nonsense make sense? And it gets even more complicated when you think about the being's own nature. For instance, if you believe God is a timeless, non-physical being, can he just decide to go for a swim? I mean, swimming is an activity that happens in time and requires a physical body. So for a timeless being to go for a swim, it would have to literally contradict its own essence. So you see, the paradoxes aren't just about silly word games. They're about the very nature of this being we're trying to describe. So here's the bottom line. Our first definition, the ability to do absolutely anything, it's kind of a logical disaster. It just ties you up in all these impossible knots and contradictions. It's clear we need something a little more sophisticated. And this is where the philosophers really had to get to work. Instead of just assuming this limitless power, they started asking a different question. What are the right kinds of limits? I mean, is an all-powerful being bound by the rules of logic? Or does its power somehow exist above and beyond logic itself? So this leads to 2 huge competing ideas. On one side, you've got a heavyweight like René Descartes. He argued that God's power is so total, so absolute, that even the laws of logic bend to his will. If God wanted 2 + 2 to equal 5, it would. Then, on the other side, you've got Thomas Aquinas. He argued that no, that totally misses the point. God's power is the ability to do anything that is logically possible. A square circle isn't a thing God fails to make. It's just a failure of language. It's a nonsensical request from the get-go. So you can actually see how the definition itself evolved over time. We start at step 1, right? The naive view. God can do anything, even impossible stuff. We've seen that's full of holes. So we move to step 2, which is more like Aquinas' view, and that solves the whole square circle problem. But even that isn't quite enough. So we get to step 3, which adds another crucial layer. Power must also be consistent with the being's own nature. For example, a being that is perfectly good, well, it cannot logically do an evil act, because that would contradict its very nature. Okay, so just when we think we're starting to get a handle on all the logical puzzles, a massive moral and theological problem comes crashing into the room: the existence of real suffering in the world. And this is the epic problem of evil. It's a question people have wrestled with for centuries. If God has the power to stop horrible suffering, and he's all good, which means he'd want to, then why doesn't he? It seems like there's a huge conflict between the ideas of omnipotence, goodness, and the reality we all see around us. Now, one of the most famous answers to this is what's called the free will defense. The argument basically goes like this. For something like love to be real and genuine, it has to be chosen freely. You can't program a robot to actually love you, right? But genuine freedom has to include the real option to choose badly, to choose to do evil things. So this defense argues that God, in his power, decided to create a world with free beings, knowing that suffering was a possible consequence, because a world with real freedom and love is fundamentally better than a world of perfectly controlled puppets. Okay, so we've grappled with logic, we've grappled with morality, but now some thinkers suggest we take one final radical step.
They propose that maybe our entire debate has been built on a huge misunderstanding of what the word power even means.
This is a total game changer of a question. What if our mental image of an all-powerful being as some kind of cosmic emperor forcing his will on the universe is just completely wrong? What if true, ultimate power works in a totally different way? It really all boils down to a huge distinction between two different kinds of power. On the one hand, you've got coercive power. This is the power of a dictator, the power to dominate, to control, to use brute force. But on the other hand, there's something called self-giving power. This is the power of love, of sacrifice. It doesn't force people, it inspires them. It endures suffering, and by doing so, it actually transforms hearts and minds from the inside out. Let's make this super concrete. Think about a great military conqueror from history. Their power is coercive. They build massive empires through force. But where are those empires now? They always crumble. Now, think about figures like Gandhi or Nelson Mandela. Their power was self-giving. They faced incredible opposition, they suffered immensely, but their moral authority and their sacrifice inspired entire movements that created lasting change that has long outlived the very empires that oppress them. And this is exactly why the philosopher Peter Vardy describes this whole field of study as being like a Rubik's Cube. Omnipotence isn't some isolated piece you can solve on its own. It's connected to God's love, to goodness, to free will. You can't twist one without affecting all the others. You have to see how it all fits together.
So this brings us to a really revolutionary way of looking at it. In this model, God's omnipotence isn't the power to make a stone he can't lift, or to just snap his fingers and eliminate suffering. Instead, true omnipotence is the invincible, unbreakable, and ultimately triumphant power of self-giving love, a power that can't be defeated by hate or by violence or even by death itself.
And that leaves us with one final question to really chew on, one that brings this entire huge philosophical puzzle right back into our own lives. When we think about power, in politics, in our communities, maybe even in ourselves, what do we really mean by it? Is it the brute force that demands control and forces an outcome? Or is it the quiet, enduring strength that inspires true, deep, and lasting transformation?